of 37 Columbine Trail, DeBary, Florida, 32713. Bill's area code is 407-668-4709. The recording was made on January 4th, 1989 by Jim Walkinshaw of the Oldsmobile History Center at Bill's home in DeBary. This is tape number 1 of 2 tapes. Okay, Bill, if you would, just maybe start us out with your name and phone number and address if you could.
Okay, I'm given name is Wilfred C. Rook, and better known as Bill around the plant. My current address is 37 Columbine Trail in DeBary, Florida, and that's a zip code of 32713. The telephone number of area code 407 and 668-4709.
Bill, when did you start at the plant?
Well, first of all, we'll go back to my General Motors where I started. I started at Fisher Body.
All right.
In about 1950. And I worked with cut and sew department there in building 16, I believe it was.
Okay.
It was few of us fellows worked with the women who did all the sewing, and we worked as so-called checkers. Actually, what we did is counted the seats and backs that were sewn, and then we moved them from one woman to another to do the sewing.
Okay.
And then after they were completed, then we take them from there and put them in the bins for stock to be taken over to the line.
This was an hourly type job.
This is strictly hourly, and I was fortunate enough to go to work for foreman by the name of Ray Renwick. And his was the only hourly that I know of that was on straight days. Here I was, a rookie with General Motors, and got to hire in on straight days. Normally, Fisher Body employees all work 3 weeks days and 3 weeks nights on a swing shift.
Uh-huh.
And then from there,
just a second. How many people were in that department about?
Oh boy, there were 4 of us fellows as checkers.
Okay.
And I would say there must have been about 35 to 40 women.
Okay.
On sewing machines, these high-powered, heavy-duty, commercial-type sewing machines.
So it was 4 guys in amongst a whole bunch of gals.
Oh yeah, and we did have our moments.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But it was interesting, and it was fairly clean work. Fisher Body as a whole was known to be a fairly dirty place to work at that time.
Yeah.
But this was a good place.
Was this up on like the 2nd or 3rd floor?
This was on the base floor. In fact, it was right back along the railroad tracks. Sexton ball field or sports field was right across the street of, oh boy, what street is that? Michigan Avenue.
Oh yeah.
Michigan Avenue, and then the railroad tracks were right where they used to load the bodies, finished bodies on cars and take them over. But they would load them on the trucks and take them over to Olds assembly plant.
So you were kind of down in the south side of the plant and down along Michigan Avenue there.
Yeah, pretty much on that.
Okay.
And then after a couple of years, I was transferred over into still with cut and sew, I was up in the weather hose or wind hose and sun visor department, sunshades,
Okay.
up in building 9. And there they did a lot of cut and sew up there. We sewed convertible tops up there, which is something gone by the wayside.
Right.
And also all the door panels were formed and sewed, and all the material was put onto hardboard forms.
Okay.
And then the metal trim was put on. Ashtrays were pressed into the doors by jigs that were there.
How was the material held to the fiberboard?
Some of it was glued and other was just by stretching over it. And sometimes it was sewed onto it. There was various ways of doing that.
Okay.
And we were just in building 9, and then
That was up at the north end?
that was in about the center of the plant.
All right. That's one of
On
those
the
buildings,
second floor.
one of the buildings that stuck out towards the west?
That's right.
All right.
Yeah. And down below, they used to do all the cutting of leather for the convertibles. Hand cut. Everything was cut by knives by leather cutters.
I'll be darned.
All these cow hides would come in and they would use their templates and cut out different patterns. Cowhide, which had been colored, stained, what do you call it? Stained, colored. And so that you'd have enough of one color to complete a whole job. So this, of course, is all gone by the wayside now because they've gone to Naugahyde and everything is cut by machine.
Right.
And also all the material was cut downstairs in building 9. They would put layers of material, anywhere from, I would say, 30 to 90 layers of material together.
Just piled up in a big...
Piled up high, and then these material cutters would come along with what they would call big jigsaws, sort of machine, and cut out the different pieces of material that the women would have to sew together to make the, we would say the headliners, as well as the front, back, or cushions, door panels, and all materials. So
were those kind of clamped together so they held a big pile, or just...
Boy, I don't recall that there were clamps on top. These knives and these saws were very, very sharp.
They just kind of go through it like butter.
Just about like butter, yeah. They would go, sometimes they'd have a little trouble. After they would stack up this material on top, then they would go through with the roll of the template or pattern. Now this roll was perforated, and then they'd lay this big roll out over the top of most material, which would be, I would say it must have been 90 feet long, on these big, huge cutting tables. And then this material, craft paper, which was perforated, then they would dust it with chalk, so that you would have an outline of all the pattern on the top layer. And then they'd come through with these jigsaw type cutters and cut out the material. But it was quite interesting. Then we had
Now, were you still working day shift at that time?
sad to say, when I moved over to Building 9, I had to start my swing
You
shift.
had to start swinging.
After working there about 2 years, I would say, on straight days, I had to transfer over there. And there I worked for Toby Emmett. He was the supervisor.
Okay,
And Ray Murray, he was the shift superintendent. And Bill Kingsley.
all right,
Now, Bill Kingsley, as far as I know, still lives in Grand Ledge.
yeah. All right,
And then 46 came, about 46, and there was quite a, in the meantime, I was put on supervision,
okay,
and this is about 1945, I would say I was on supervision, and then there was a cutback. There was sales were down in 46, I believe it was, or 56.
56, yeah, 56 and 55, yeah.
Yeah.
55 was a big high year. We had a lot of cars.
55 was high, and then 56, it sort of went downhill,
Right.
and so they cut back on supervision, they cut back on hourly help. So then I got cut back to hourly help, and they tried to keep me in cut and sew, and they couldn't on hourly, so finally they transferred me out on the line on Fisher Body, and I worked on the line at Fisher Body about 5 days. And I was on the convertible line, hardtop line, and I was matched up with a big strapping guy. He must have been about 6'8". He must have weighed about 270, 280. And he would handle one side of the convertible top that was finished, and I was on the other side. And I'd go staggering around trying to take this convertible top off of the conveyor and place it into the convertible body. Well, I couldn't take that very long, and so being taken off of salary and back onto hourly, I had some time coming. I don't even know what they call it. I had some separation pay coming in.
Oh, okay, because you'd been there long enough.
And I had enough time in, so I didn't ever dream that I'd be coming back to General Motors. So, and that couple $100 was about all I had in the bank, that, so to speak,
Yeah.
because here I was raising 3 kids at home there, and I needed something to put the food on the table and shoes on the feet there for the kids. So I took the separation pay, and then I went to work for Warner and Swayze
Oh, okay.
over for Duplex Truck.
Duplex truck, yeah.
And I worked over there, and I set up a timekeeping system for them.
How'd you get into that business?
Well, it was a long story.
Oh,
That might be a little. My mother-in-law happened to know somebody down in Cleveland who knew somebody, and they worked for Warner and Swayze, and they put in a word for me, and so I went over there.
Back up a minute, Bill. Did you tell me when you were the supervisor, what department you were running over there?
I was a supervisor in sunshades and wind hose.
That department. All right. All right.
And
What the wind hose? What's a wind hose?
weather hose, weather stop. It's stuff that goes around the doorway. It's the
It's the rubber.
insulation strip. It's a round insulation strip that goes around the door, and the door hits it when it is closed.
It's on the inside of the car.
It's on the inside of the car. It's finished material out of. They don't use it much anymore.
No,
I think now it's all plastic.
Right.
But,
It's like a big cord.
big long cord that is sewn onto a center pillar.
About the size of
that name came back to me. I couldn't think of the name.
And it's
center
called
pillar.
what is it called again?
Weather hose, really.
Weather hose.
And
Okay.
we used to call it wind hose. And then I worked on the sunshades there, sun visors.
Yeah.
They used to have to sew all that stuff. I guess they still do down in Livonia.
Yeah.
I think most of that stuff
Yeah,
is
it's all
done
made
now.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it wasn't very long after that. After 56, I think it was shortly after that, that they disbanded most of Cut and Sew in Lansing and sent the Chevrolet parts over to be done over to Grand Rapids. In fact, Jerry Miskey, I used to work with Jerry Miskey, and he went over there, and also Ray Murray, my supervisors, they went over to Grand Rapids.
Let's see, at that time, were we making bodies for other than Oldsmobile?
Yes, on the convertible.
Okay,
The convertibles, we made the Chevrolet and the Pontiac. And I don't remember if we made the Buick body or not,
okay,
and also Olds.
yeah,
And then we did, oh boy, yeah. As far as a hardtop goes, I think we did make some hardtops also
okay,
for Chevrolet. But this I cannot swear about.
all right, but we did make convertibles.
We did make the convertible bodies for Pontiac, Chevrolet, Olds, and it must have been Buick also, because I don't think they'd split the plant for
Yeah.
that. Not at that time.
You had a separate convertible line, did you?
Convertibles and hardtops would go down that
All
line,
right.
depending on the how many orders you had, whether or not you would intersperse the hardtops with convertibles. You would have what they call the closed line, which was the coupe and sedan,
Mhm.
which would be Olds, and I think it was strictly Olds.
All right,
But on the convertible line, you would have hardtops and convertibles
Okay.
going down that line.
all right. And we didn't make
Uh,
station wagons then, at that point in time,
Boy.
or did we?
Yes, we did make wagons.
All right,
We did make wagons at that time. I forgot all about those.
all right,
So, and but after I left Fisher Body there, I sort of lost contact.
Yeah,
And then I went to Duplex Truck, and then
when did you come back then?
I was gone, and I came back in about 1959, I think it was.
Okay,
I think it was 1959. I hired in over into plant engineering
at Oldsmobile.
at Oldsmobile,
Okay.
building 40
Yep.
upstairs. And my first job was with Stu Rudder
Okay,
and John Burgeon,
Yeah.
my immediate supervisor.
Okay.
I didn't think I could remember that name, but I did. And there they did the estimating for jobs that were coming in, whether they were plant renovations and new plants.
Okay.
They would do the estimating, and we had that was a good job over there. We did the purchase orders for buying big equipment for air compressors,
Oh,
airlines, and airlines, not
Yeah.
airplanes.
yeah,
And oh golly, for out in the plant for plant maintenance.
Mhm.
And also we would do the breakdown of the bids that would come in for new buildings. In other words, when they came in for the building of 66, building 66, we did all the breakdown on the bids on that
Mhm.
for general and for mechanical and electrical and all that. All these bids were broke down.
What were you doing? What was your task?
I was clerk. I was a
Okay.
clerk.
You were a clerk.
I came in there and I was supposed to help somebody out, but he had been sick with pneumonia and he never showed up for about 4 or 5 months later after I showed up. So I came in there cold.
Oh, boy.
But I'd been acquainted with clerical type work
Mhm.
and it wasn't that far different from what I had done. And back in the army, I did a lot of clerical work. There out down in the South Pacific for almost 3 years with the anti-aircraft outfit. And from there,
Well, just a minute, before you leave the estimating or the clerking side, tell me about John Burgess.
John Burgeon was one peach of a guy. He was a real good supervisor, very orderly, very helpful for anybody. He had the time of day for anybody who came around.
Mhm.
And I would say due to him, and he and I, we would work out these bids and purchase orders. Even though I was new on the job,
Mhm.
he took over and showed me how. And he was real good fellow to work for.
Right.
Yeah. And then these purchase orders, I would, on rush ones, we would have to carry them over by hand over to Rollis and Hanson's office
In building.
over building 60 at that time.
Okay.
Building 60 is no more. Let's see, what's over in building 60 right now is,
Big old parking lot.
I think that's all parking lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's, so, and then, well,
How about Stu Rudder?
Stu Rudder, he was my first, top supervisor. Let's see, who was his?
Bill Rasmussen?
Bill Rasmussen was his immediate supervisor, and then I worked for Rudder, who was over this estimating and purchase order
Yeah.
section.
What kind of a guy was Stu Rudder?
Well, Stu, I guess we got to be truthful about it.
Well,
I never cared much for Stu Rudder for the simple reason he was quite an overbearing type sort of individual,
okay.
and he would take credit for more things than what he did. This is strictly off the cuff. And I didn't like the way he ran things there. I don't think he was a fair supervisor. I won't qualify that.
Yes, that's okay.
So, but he was not the best liked supervisor of that area anyway.
How about who were some of the other people in the department?
Oh boy, you're going back quite a ways now. We're going back 30 years on me
Do you
here.
remember any of those?
And there was a fellow by the name of Pierce there, Dick
Dick
Pierce.
Pierce, yes.
And oh my goodness,
Dick was a
he was an
estimator.
estimator.
All right.
Did the estimating on these
Yeah.
jobs, like for somebody came in wanted a conveyor job put in,
Yeah.
he would estimate what it would take to,
The amount of money.
how much money it would cost to
Okay.
install this. Or if there were petitions to be put into different locations in the plant, they would
Right.
have to estimate how much it was.
Dick,
And
let's see, Bob Talmadge. I remember.
Bob Talmadge, yeah, he
Is
was
that another guy?
Yeah, he and Dick worked together there. And there were a couple others, and I can't
That's all right.
pull it out of the brain anymore.
See, how about guys like Mike Green?
Oh, Mike Green, he was
Was he there?
started and not Bill Holt. There was Mike Green was there. He was he was in the other section.
In the engineering side.
He was in the engineering side of it,
Okay.
and I'm trying to think of this other shorter fellow.
Jay Parker.
Jay Parkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were real good fellows to work with. I enjoyed working over there.
Ed Eva, was he another one maybe? Ed Eva?
Yeah.
Tall, slender fella?
Now, wait a minute. That's not the one I'm thinking of. No, I don't know. I don't recall him. Don't recall him. And as I say, it's very difficult. But those fellows that do all the plant engineering design over there. And
Okay, what happened after that?
being going back and forth over to Rollis's office, I would stop in and see Tom Shields every now and then. As you can guess, I probably wasn't too happy with Stu Rudder. Took me 2.5 year and a half to get my first raise out of him.
Oh, yes.
And when the raise did come through, I let him know that I appreciated the raise, but I thought it was quite a long time coming. And after all, he said I was doing such a bang up job and giving me praise and this and that, but it took him a year and a half to get a raise through for me. And I didn't really appreciate that. So I stopped in at Tom Shields' office quite a bit on the way back between building 60 and building 40. And I kept asking Tom about if there was any chance of if there were any openings in the other place. But it so happened I did hear of an opening through some friends over in product engineering, and especially in this one clerical type or standards group, we did a lot of typing and bookwork type things. Right? And so anyway, Tom Shields got to know me by name. Well, I got in and out of there quite a bit, and I never told him that I was dissatisfied. As I found out a long time ago, if you want to transfer, you don't transfer because you're dissatisfied. So anyway, I did talk to Adrian Smith over at in Standards Group at that time. Adrian died not too long after that. But anyway, I found out that there was an opening over there, and I told Tom, and I really can't tell you how I finagled that transfer, because I understand I was the only person that ever transferred out of plant engineering under Stu Rudder. And I told him, well, I told Tom Shields that I thought I could do a much better job for Oldsmobile, and they could use my talents much better over there. And where I was just eking out a base, or what do you say, base pay, and very little overtime in plant engineering, I did go to work over there for John Alphas in Standards Group. John Alphas, and then Adrian Smith worked for John Alphas, and shortly after that, Adrian died, and then I went to work for, oh boy, who replaced him? Was it Ted Munn? I think Ted Munn
Good gig.
replaced,
Yeah.
Adrian Smith, and then I worked for Dale Mahan
All right.
over in Standards Group.
When did you end up over there?
I started working over there, it must have been in about, 1961, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was right in that area. And this was in building 64. This is where engineering was.
Yeah, where were you?
I was working right outside the blueprint room.
Which was,
Right in on the second floor. Second floor, yeah. And, they had a big blueprint room there where we used to make all our own blueprints up there. They had a big crew making blueprints.
a big drafting room.
Drafting room was outside there, and the fellows would have to take.
Okay, back to the blueprint room.
Getting into the blueprint. They used to do blueprint and printing room there. Now, I worked in the standards group, where we did, release work for parts, product parts for the cars. And we had oh boy, trying to figure out just exactly what we did on that. We used to have to put out design notices. And we would group parts and also make up parts lists for the parts that went into the cars. And sometimes we'd have to assign part numbers and also the procedure as to how they would go, or not the procedure, but the sequence, how they would go into the car. And then in the sequence, you would have to put them in a parts list in that sequence. And hopefully you didn't miss anything. But then I worked for Irv Henning. Oh, Irv Henning. I don't know if Irv is still around or not. And he was my immediate supervisor there. Irv Henning was there before Dale Mahan. Dale Mahan succeeded Irv Henning. Okay. So then we worked in building 64. This was quite a job in standing up there. Everything was done by hand. Okay. There was no such thing as a computer printout or anything like this.
How did you get your information? Where did it?
Our information, we would have to get our information off of written notices that would come out of the design groups. As I recall, I can't pick this up right now. I was trying to as I was talking there before. And if we would have to write out design notices if one part replaced another part. And as I say, this was all done by hand, and then we would give this work to some girl typists who would type up these design notices. And then after they would type, they would go into the print room, and then they would have to go through a printing process, these design notices, and then there were just so many of them that were printed for distribution all over the plant, or in purchasing department or wherever it might be.
This is what told the world that there was something changing.
There was something being done there, changing and released.
How many people in that group?
There were probably about 10, 12 of us that worked on that. And we just had one shift over there. But I worked from practically no overtime in plant engineering to unlimited overtime over in product engineering in the standards group at that time. It was nothing to put in a 60, 70-hour week
Gracious.
at that time. But I tell you, at that time, I appreciated every hour of it
Yeah.
because as I say, I was raised in, at that time, it was 4 kids. And it really helped out and really put us out where we could start living.
Yeah.
And then trying to think. This was an interesting job because I never knew so much about the content of a car, but I got to know it pretty decent about the different parts that go inside of a car.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh boy, building 64. Down below was the assembly, this garage.
Okay.
Yeah, down lower 64, this is where the experimental assembly was down there. And that was a crowded place down there. You can imagine putting experimental cars down there.
Yeah.
And I think they had the cold room down there at that time too. But in the machine shop, I don't know where the machine shop was at that time, the experimental machine shop. It must have been close by, but I don't know just where it was. Can't remember.
You had dynamometers down there, didn't you, on the first floor?
They had some dynos down there, and and also there was an experimental paint shop was around there.
Okay.
In fact, that was upstairs yet. That was over there. In fact, it still is there, I think.
It is, yeah.
And now, of course, that's the experimental machine shop is down there now. And see, upstairs, what have we got upstairs? I know my memory.
The auditorium, of course, was up.
The auditorium was still there. That was all of the big Olds functions, and even some of the big city functions were held in that Olds auditorium. It used to be one of the biggest places in Lansing. In fact, the first Christmas party or two that I attended at Olds was up there. And it wasn't long after that we had to go over to the Civic Center. Right? Or was it the Rio Clubhouse?
No, Civic Center.
What did we have in the Rio Clubhouse? We had something in the Rio Clubhouse one year that
we had something in the clubhouse. Huh?
Rio Clubhouse.
I wonder what that was. Interesting.
Yeah, there was something going on that year too. Isn't that strange? That just popped in my mind there that there was something that had to go. And I think it was the first 2 years we had the Christmas party up there in the Olds Auditorium. Then it got too small, so then they went over there. Those were enjoyable years. About those Christmas parties and the also the summer picnic over at the Ionia Free Fairgrounds.
The football bus.
The football bus, they were always looked forward. I really think that these things really made a close-knit, a tight-knit group of Oldsmobile employees, especially along the salary line, because they seem to love to get the get-togethers and see some of the fellows from other departments. And I think we lost a whole lot when they dropped off these get-togethers. I think General Motors was a loser for this coordination type bit.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that cost incentives and all this have a lot to do, but it sure took the incentive out of the working class, out of the working people. Instead of working for a company, you worked for a paycheck. Once you got to this where there was no competition between divisions, I think the divisions were the losers, and General Motors was the loser for taking away this competition between divisions. And on the other hand, I can see where costs did enter into it. This coordinated program enter into the costs program.
When did you start seeing that the coordination sort of start happening? You would have seen that in the standards.
This started right soon after we moved into building 66.
Okay.
I'm guessing that we moved into 66 in about 62,
61 or 2, I think that's right.
someplace in there. And so I was with standards group there yet. And then we started to work different systems about putting out design notices and releasing parts. Dick Hill came into the supervisory position at that time.
Who did you replace? Or didn't you replace anything?
I think Ted Munn stepped up
Okay.
at that time. Let's see, somebody died. And one of the assistant chiefs died up there. See, I'm trying to think of who the chief engineer was at that time.
In 61, that would have been,
Just before John Belts.
yeah. What,
Oh boy, he went over.
Huh.
Oh my.
was that Harold Metzel?
There was Metzel, and then John Belts. And then I think Howard Carroll came in there. He was there just for a very short time. I think a year, maybe even less. It doesn't seem like it was any longer than that. And then Dorschman, I think, came in then. Of course, Bob stayed there. He was there
For a long time.
practically all the time I was there, most of the time. And Ted Munn stepped up and do an assistant chief. Oh boy. That's funny how some of these names just don't come back.
That's all right.
And then Dick Hill took over there as standards engineer. I don't know if he was listed as standards engineer or not. But anyway, he was the instigator or starting this program of different type of releasing procedure. And then we got into the computer or how can I say that? Eventually it led into the computer programming bit that we got into. And we had about 2, 4, 6, 8 release riders.
All right.
And then there was a break up there where the release people from Standard Group were part of the design groups. There were a couple of them, 3 of them, I think, went to work for Body Group, and a couple of them for the chassis group, and then
So you split apart?
then the Standard Group split apart there in this respect, in the respect of the release. And so I went to work for in the engine group or transmission group. And then there was another one for the engine group.
Okay.
And they didn't have powertrain group at that time.
Yeah, because it was all part of Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
When was that? When did that happen?
Oh boy.
Shortly after you arrived?
This was shortly after this must have been about 63, I would guess.
All right.
And my first boss over there was with Harold Howard. And transmission. Then Harold Howard got transferred, or he might have retired. And my next boss was an unknown guy, by the guy right off the board by the name of Robert Stemple. He came right off the board and stepped right into the transmission group.
Well, what did everybody think about that?
And well, Bob was a well-liked or well-thought of. I don't think there was anybody that begrudged Bob his job.
Okay.
Because Bob, even from the word go, he brought people together.
How did he do that?
He made them feel like they were all had a job to do, and they all contributed, no matter even how small a job it was. And you were important. And one thing that he didn't care how you did a job as long as you got it done. He let you do your own thing with it. And this is something that I think people of the caliber we had up there really appreciated. And the guys would knock themselves out for Bob. If there was anything they could do to help him out, they did. We did have one little phase there when Bob was a little forgetful, and it wasn't too often, but sometimes he would set a group meeting up for a certain time a week, and every now and then his schedule, he would forget that he had set this thing up. Well, we had a blue phantom that appeared in our group, and this blue phantom had a way of leaving notes for Bob Stemple, reminding him that we had a meeting at such and such a time, and that he was supposed to bring up such and such a subject at this time because he had failed to do it at the time before, or similar annex of that. And this blue phantom stayed with Bob Stemple all the time he was with the transmission group there.
Who was the Blue Phantom?
The Blue Phantom to this day is not known.
Is not
really known.
Okay.
Although there are very well-founded suspicions. But
how did the Blue Phantom get a name like that?
I believe it started out as notes appearing that were in blue ink, wide blue felt pen, and there were I don't know, I think the Blue Phantom just appeared out of nowhere. He was hatched. So, I think there are certain people that, if you wanted to interview, and I don't know if you want me to put those on tape or not.
Yeah.
I think if, you, contacted, Ed Kupek, who is now in the
Indian bunch.
powertrain section, and Frank Krasnowski, and Rod Cooling, and oh boy, there's a couple others there. Names fail me at this time. The rest of them are pretty well gone.
Yeah.
But I think they could give you a insight on this Blue Phantom bit.
The little note that you handed me
Yeah,
with that talks about the Blue Phantom.
yeah.
Does that come from that same guy, so to speak?
This would be a good place to start.
Uh-huh.
So I think that this,
Okay.
and Bob always appreciated these kind of little notes. In fact, one of these notes was sent to him when he was up on the 14th floor. But the Blue Phantom now is bowed out of the picture because Blue Phantom felt that Mr. Stempo has arrived.
Starts remembering meetings.
And does not, he has other ways of remembering meetings now. But Bob was a terrific supervisor, and I think it showed up. He had it. I think there were fellows would do anything to help Bob out. And the way Bob was very instrumental working with John Belts in getting the Toronado program off the floor. But this is one of Bob's big advances, I think, when he got a chance to work on that. And then he was later assistant to Ed Cole down in
Mm-hmm.
14th floor. He went from there. So memories of Bob Stemple are very, very good. And even outside the plant. The memory that that man has is fantastic. I don't think he ever forgets anything or anybody. I have never seen him stumped for a name. In fact, I think if he walked into that group up there in Powertrain, those that he knew at that time, I think he could name them off as he walked in. I know I was walking down the hall one time when he was working with Ed Cole down in Detroit, or for Ed Cole. And he was busy. I was walking down the hallway in building 66, and this always impressed me. And he had been gone a couple of years, several. And I walked by him in the hall, and he took the time out to say, "Hi, Bill, how you doing?"
Mm-hmm. Neat.
And just stopped just for a word, and he kept right on going. Amazing. And it wasn't just me that he did that to. He did that to most of the fellows. But very, very good. I think we got a terrific man up at the top of General Motors. Very down to earth and
See,
it's all right.
The photo you gave me with that group's picture, was there an occasion? Was that on a special occasion, or what was it?
No, that was the transmission group at that time, and I think most of the fellows at that time were on that picture.
Okay, but there was no special occasion?
No special occasion other than just a
for a record,
just a record purpose and photo there. Yeah, that was a good picture. That was taken in the oh boy, what are you gonna call it up there in the engineering room?
That appearance analysis room?
Yeah.
That big where they put the cars?
No, No, this is in the conference room. in
Oh, okay.
Building
Yeah,
66.
the engineering conference room.
Yeah. In fact, one of those hides that you see on the table there,
Yeah,
that's the kind of hide they used to cut these parts out for the convertibles.
the leather seats.
So the leather seats and the armrests and the like.
Oh, that,
That's the
what
same,
it looks like.
same
Uh-huh.
type of thing.
uh-huh.
It's similar.
Yeah. So the
So,
photograph you gave me, Bill, of the blue pen, that, you know, a big one and a little one?
yeah,
What was it?
well, that, one of these individuals, well, Ed Kupek gave that to me,
Uh-huh.
as I was up there 2 years ago, and he wanted to give that to me as a remembrance.
Okay.
And I think this is one of the things that was sent to Bob Stemple.
Oh, yeah.
Telling him that he was off the hook.
Uh-huh.
But as I say, Bob Stemple did have and does have a very good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I think he has to have in the position that he's in. So,
Well, how long did you stay in the transmission bunch?
well, the transmission group, oh boy. Well, I was there until they turned it into the powertrain group. That's what it is. Eventually, excuse me, the standards group took over again
All right, so
and recalled all their data writers, so to speak.
Okay.
I guess that's the name I was looking for before, a data
Alright.
writer. And in the meantime, we got into our tubes.
which is a what?
The tubes or the computer
Okay.
input.
A workstation of some kind.
Yeah, and we finally got into that. And it was partly tube work and partly hand work that we did this. This was a evolution from going from hand work or hand release notices to computer release notices.
Why did the guys go out in the first place to the various transmission chassis?
They thought it would be more efficient if
Okay.
they were connected right to the groups,
Yeah.
and they would also attend the meetings that these fellows attended. Or normally, the standard group people would not attend a transmission or a
Mhm.
powertrain group meeting. And which was bad because in these meetings is where you got uh, advanced notice or notice of advanced changes,
Mhm.
advanced notice of changes.
Yeah.
And you needed this if you were going to do your job properly in data writing. It just worked in so good.
Then why did they come back?
Well, there again, ideas had changed.
Uh-huh.
Ideas, and we questioned that quite a bit ourselves. And because we, being assigned to these transformer design groups, all the data writers, we kind of liked it the way it was.
Yeah.
Because we were in a dual position where evidently we were under the standards group, but we were in the design group. And I guess this is just a matter of group setup, or I'm trying to think of the word and I can't. But no, we were not. Other divisions, I guess, had set it up this way, and we were trying to commonize a setup. At least this is the way I. So anyway, we went back and we were standards group. Dick Hill was
still there.
he was still the. In fact, he was there even after I left,
Mhm.
and I left in 82. My goodness, time does fly. And so Trying to think what else we got going there.
What kind of a guy was Dick Hill?
Dick Hill was he was sharp individual. Dick was sharp. He knew computers. At least he appeared, he made me believe that he knew computers. And he was always devising new ways of getting that job done faster and better. We didn't always agree with what Dick Hill did. I think Dick Hill was out for Dick Hill, but nevertheless, he did get the job done. And he did a lot of things that we didn't agree with, but he was the boss, so we had to go along with it. But Dick was all right. Dick always treated me good. And I have no complaints on that score with him. Others, they have their own thoughts. But I enjoyed working with Dick in this respect that he was ready to go ahead and not afraid to change. It looked like it was going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Go. And this is the way I liked it. Just because something was always done this way is no sign it couldn't be done differently. But Dick gave us fairly free hand in our own section how we wanted to do it. As long as it didn't upset the apple cart, do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed working with parts lists there, and if we had to work with other divisions, which I happen to be in axles. Axles were my big point as far as releasing. Axles up to the time I got in there were a very difficult thing.
Rook of DeBary, Florida, made by Jim Walkinshaw on January 4th, 1989. This is tape number 2 of 2 tapes. Back to the axles now.
See on there? Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
So the axles were probably one of the more difficult, and it was almost a full-time job on releasing axle parts. It would take weeks and weeks because of the complexity of the axles.
Mm-hmm.
And they had not devised a way of releasing axles 100% correctly. And then when you could do it by hand, but you couldn't do it by computer. So there, consequently, we had to come in with some more options, lettered options and numbered options to call different ratios and things. Up to that time, we did not have that.
Uh-huh.
So we devised that. That came out pretty good because all the other divisions adopted it. So
That says something for him.
yeah. So the Buick division and Olds division, we worked pretty close together on that. There was a girl over at Buick by the name of Barb. I don't know. She's since gone on to higher things in
Mhm.
Buick. But, she and I, we worked together on, the axle parts list, and, to my knowledge, they're using it to this day,
Uh-huh.
but,
Did that all kind of come to pass when we took over the making of axles, or did that happen before that? I wonder.
oh, it came over before then. As long as we were making axles, we'd been making axles for some time
Okay,
over in plant, two,
yeah,
porch plant there. In fact, now I guess that's all gone,
yes, did.
so, what I understand. But, it was a very interesting bit. But, then, my other job right there on Standard Group was, also shift controls. Along with the transmission, you had to go with the shift controls. So, that was primarily the lower part of shift control down underneath by the transmission and up on the engine. And I worked with Vern Claver. I don't know if you heard of Vern.
No,
Probably not.
I didn't know.
I think he just retired here a year or two ago.
All right.
And he lives over in, I think he lives in Holt.
Oh, really?
Vern Claver. Klaver. Klaver.
Uh-huh.
And, he can give you a lot of insight on engine stuff
Mhm.
if he's so inclined to talk.
Okay.
And, from there, oh, the evolution from from handwritten to computers, it was sort of got to me a little bit there. I was in an interim place there where we were working both ways. We were working handwritten as well as input in the computer. There were two different ways, and in fact, just about the time I left there is when they started to do everything on computer.
They were using punch cards a lot, weren't they, prior to that or not?
Well, that was one of the first things.
The-
That was one of the first evolutions of
Okay.
punch cards.
You went from the handwritten to the punch card.
Yeah, to the punch card, and then we went into the computer type.
At the punch card time, were you guys doing your own punch cards over there? or-
Yeah, we were making our own
You were
punch
making your
card.
own-
That was one of the first things that Dick Hill installed. That was the evolution from handwritten to punch card, and then into the tubes
All right.
or computer.
Yeah,
so to
that's where
speak.
you're online, sort of.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about this punch card, guys, but that was it. This was the evolution from handwritten entirely. And then the so-called blueprint room with they had people in there who would type up, take your information off of handwritten cards, put it into punch cards,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there it would go into
Okay. Then you could get your reports and things printed out.
that would, so and let's see. I'm running out of gas.
Okay, well, let me just ask a question.
Sure.
What do you think, during all that 30-some years in there, or however long that was, what do you think were perhaps some of the more significant happenings that happened during that time frame?
Oh, I think one of the big things there was the introduction of the Toronado,
Okay.
front wheel drive axle. And I think that was one of the big moments of the Oldsmobile. And of course, going to computer releases, that was another big thing.
All right.
And some of the things I think people miss the most, and usually management doesn't hear about too much, was the lack of recognition of the individual. And management could show it by having these individual so-called divisional get-togethers like they did have with their Christmas parties or picnics and things like that. This is one thing that I think really drew the division together and the people together, and makes people feel that they are an individual. And also let the families participate somewhat.
Mhm.
I think it was a sad thing when they did take away those gatherings. But
Did you get to know any of the chief engineers, Bill, that you could talk about at all, or?
No,
Too far away from you.
well, I worked with, let's see, Dick Manwaring. He came in from Chevrolet division. He worked in the transmission group when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
He came in as a rookie. Dick was a very energetic sort of individual, and very hard worker. Seemed to know his job very good. He has now gone on up the ladder.
Right.
And Jim Dawson, I don't know where Jim is right now. Jim was a peach of a guy. He was a terrific engineer. That's all I gotta say, terrific engineer. And let's see, I worked with Ted Lucas. Maybe some of those comments are better left unsaid. But never cared much for Ted. Ted never gave you credit for what you did. If there was anything good done, he did it. No, nobody else under him did it. He did it. Another terrific fella that I worked with was Ron Haas. Ron Haas came into the group there. And Ron has gone on to bigger things too.
Right.
But Ron is a peach of a guy and hard to get to know at times. But he's business, and he says what he means and means what he says. And thank goodness GM has selected him to go on, because the Stempel and he up there, they could do a whole lot worse. And now Bob Easton, he came in just before, shortly before I left, and then he left.
Yes, he was
there for a short time.
very short period of time.
Yeah. But Bob was a very energetic sort of individual. I don't know much about Bob. I'm trying to think who. But I'm very proud to add the association with some of these fellows, and also the fellows in standards group. We had a good time. As far as I know, a standards group still has their corn roasts.
Mhm.
The individual departments, they still have some of their get-togethers, and thank goodness they do that. I think it's good for the whole bunch.
Who do you think was your best boss, Bill?
Oh, let's see. my best boss. Well, I thought awful lot of Stemple. He is very good. Probably the best. And then Dale Mahan, he is since retired. He lives over near Vermontville.
Why Dale Mahan?
Dale was down to earth. He was in the trenches. He was my immediate supervisor. And he was in the trenches and he understood your problems.
Okay.
And he'd sit down with you and try to work it out. And I think he was about as fair. If you were out of line, he told you.
Mhm.
And if you were in the right, he told you. So, very, very good. Oh, I had others. I forgot to mention a couple of the supervisors I had. Wow, I was in the powertrain section over there. A couple of Tom Leonard.
Okay.
Tom is there, and like I saw Tom this summer up at Mullet Lake.
Mhm. He has retired.
Yeah, he just retired there, and talked with him a little bit up there. And John Zelenka,
Mhm.
he was there. Or he wasn't there at the lake, but
But yeah.
he was my supervisor. But John was a very indefinite sort of individual. He kept to himself pretty much. He didn't didn't make decisions. Would not make decisions.
How did you get anything done?
Well, only because of the driving force of the individuals, of the men themselves. It's a tough one. I think powertrain had a hard time when he was there. Oh my goodness. And I don't know where else we're at here.
Well, maybe we-
Where the
How about, what would be, can you think back to any, what I will call unusual happenings or daily occurrences that were kind of, this is the way it sort of went?
oh, not really. Sometime I broke my ankle or sprained my ankle so bad that softball game,
Oh.
interdepartment softball game we had
Okay.
there, over there behind the plant 3.
Three.
That the ball diamond over there. We did have some ball teams there, and we had fun times during the ball playing and also after the ball playing.
Mhm.
And then departmental wise, the times we were over at Jim Palmater's house. This was a powertrain group where we would go there for our corn roast or picnic in the
Mhm.
fall and have our volleyball game with a poker party and pool playing. And where they would invite all the retirees back to the corn roast or all the retirees from the department. And it was a good time. Those were enjoyable times. Jim Palmer. And then the standards department still has their corn roast, or did have it out at Dale Mahan's there for years.
Mhm.
And where they have it now, I don't know. And, as I say, Dale Mahan's is out on Vermontville Highway.
Okay.
And, the retirement party they gave me, that was enjoyable. I retired at the same time with Bob DeVinny. I don't know if you
Didn't know
remember Bob. And Yeah, where they sprung the belly dancer in there on us.
That's,
Which was a complete surprise.
that's been done to a few fellas.
Yeah, they got me at that, or us. So, I don't know,
Well, maybe
we've covered it.
we've run it in the ground for the day.
Okay, well,
Do appreciate it.
we sure
Yeah.
hope that your interviews go well and,
Well, I think
that
that'll work
your,
fine. So,
if something comes up later on, if I can be of help,
yeah.
I'll give me a call or a letter and
Sure.
we'll see.
Well, I will shut this thing off.
Okay, I think we've